There is one person in your life, maybe at work, maybe in your friend group, maybe you see them on a screen, and something about them is different. Not their looks, not their money, not their connections. Something underneath all of that. They walk into a room and the room notices. They get told no and somehow come back stronger. They fail publicly, visibly, embarrassingly, and then show up the next day like the failure was just information. And you've probably told yourself they were born that way, that some people just have it and some people don't. That confidence is a trait, like eye color, distributed at birth and mostly fixed. That belief is not just wrong. It is the exact thing keeping you stuck. What if I told you that confidence isn't a feeling at all? That everything you've been told about it, the fake it till you make it, the power poses, the positive self-talk, is not only incomplete but actively working against you? Neuroscientists and behavioral psychologists have spent the last 2 decades quietly dismantling the entire popular mythology around confidence, and what they found underneath is something far more specific, far more actionable, and far more uncomfortable than anything on a motivational poster. There is one skill at the center of it, one mechanism, and when it's missing, nothing else works. Not therapy, not success, not external validation, not any amount of achievement. But when it's present, everything else becomes almost unfairly decisions, resilience, your relationship with your own reflection. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you're going to understand something about yourself that you probably should have been taught at 14. Let's start with what confidence actually is. Not what it feels like, but what it is mechanically inside the brain. Most people describe confidence as a feeling of certainty, a feeling of readiness, a feeling that you can handle what's coming. And that's exactly why most people never build it, because they're waiting for a feeling to arrive before they act. They're waiting to feel ready before they start, waiting to feel calm before they speak, waiting to feel worthy before they apply. And the feeling never comes first. That's not how the brain works. That's never been how the brain works. Here is what's actually happening neurologically. Confidence is not a feeling. It is a prediction. Your brain is a prediction machine. Its entire operating system is built around one function, anticipating what comes next and preparing you for it. Every time you do something and survive it, not just physically but emotionally, your brain updates its model of the world. It files that experience under, "I can handle this." And the next time a similar situation arrives, before you've consciously processed anything, your nervous system is already running that file. The body relaxes slightly. The voice steadies. The options look wider. That is confidence, not a feeling you summon. A prediction your brain makes based on evidence it has collected about you, which means people who seem effortlessly confident aren't feeling something you don't feel. They have a different database. And here's where it gets critical. Because the one skill, the actual confidence code, is this: the ability to keep a promise to yourself, not to other people, not to a boss, a partner, a parent, an audience, to yourself, in private, when no one is watching, when nothing is at stake except the relationship you have with your own word. This sounds simple. It is not simple. It is for most people the hardest thing they will ever attempt to do consistently. And the reason it's hard goes straight back to childhood, which is where most psychological patterns always go when you trace them far enough. Think about how many promises you have made to yourself since January 1st of whatever year you first started making resolutions. I'll wake up earlier. I'll stop eating like this. I'll go back to school. I'll leave this relationship. I'll start that thing. How many of those promises have you kept? Not to judge you. That's genuinely not the point. The point is what your brain did with every single one you didn't. It filed it. Your brain doesn't editorialize. It doesn't say, well, you were tired, or the circumstances were hard, or that goal was unrealistic anyway. It simply records. You said you would, you didn't. And slowly, quietly, without any dramatic announcement, it updates its prediction model. The next time you make yourself a promise, even a small one, there is now a whisper underneath the intention. But will you though? Psychologists call this self-efficacy erosion. Dr. Albert Bandura at Stanford spent decades mapping this process, and what he found was devastating in its simplicity. Your belief in your own ability to execute is not built by success or destroyed by failure. It is built or destroyed by the consistency between what you tell yourself you'll do and what you actually do. The gap between those two things is where confidence lives or dies. If this is already landing somewhere real in you, if you're recognizing something in yourself right now, hit subscribe before you keep watching. This channel exists for exactly this kind of psychology. The stuff that rewires how you see yourself, The next part is where it gets even more specific. Here is what nobody tells you about that gap. It compounds, exactly like debt, exactly like interest. Every small broken promise to yourself makes the next promise slightly less credible to your own nervous system. And the terrifying thing is that it works in both directions. Because every small kept promise, even absurdly small ones, deposits something into the account. And those deposits compound too. This is the research that changed everything. A 2010 study by researchers at Duke University found that the size of the self-promise is almost irrelevant to its neurological impact. What matters is completion. Your brain registers a kept promise whether you told yourself you'd run a marathon or you told yourself you'd make your bed before you left the house this morning. The neural signature of "I said I would and I did" is nearly identical regardless of scale, which means the fastest way to rebuild a confidence system that has been eroded over years of broken self-promises is not to set bigger goals. It is to set smaller ones and keep them. This is what the self-help industry almost universally gets backward. It tells you to dream bigger, aim higher, set audacious goals that excite you. And for a small subset of people in specific neurological and circumstantial conditions, that works. For most people, especially people who already carry years of self-efficacy erosion, a bigger goal is just a bigger promise to break. It doesn't build confidence. It gives it another place to collapse. Now let's go deeper. Because there's a second layer to this that almost no one discusses. The reason keeping promises to yourself is so uniquely powerful, more powerful than external achievement, more powerful than compliments, more powerful than success, is that it directly addresses the one thing that external validation can never touch: the voice. You know the one. The voice that runs underneath all the applause, underneath the promotion, underneath the relationship, underneath the good day. The voice that says, yes, but they don't really know you. Yes, but you got lucky. Yes, but if they could see how you actually are when no one's looking, they'd revise their opinion immediately. That voice is not a mental health crisis. It's not low self-esteem in the clinical sense. It is a perfectly logical response to a dataset. When the private you and the public you are dramatically different, when you project competence and composure outward while privately abandoning your own word on a daily basis, your inner system knows, and it cannot be convinced otherwise by anything that comes from outside. External confidence is built on external evidence. Internal confidence, the kind that holds in the dark, under pressure, when everything goes wrong, is only built through private integrity. That is the confidence code. Integrity with yourself, specifically, narrowly, relentlessly, doing what you told yourself you'd do. And here's what changes when you start. Gradually, then suddenly, the voice gets quieter. Not because you silenced it, but because you changed the data it's working from. You start to feel, not just believe intellectually, that you are someone who follows through. And when that feeling is real, when it's earned, not borrowed from a speech you watched or an affirmation you repeated, it starts to travel into how you speak in meetings, into how you handle rejection, into how long you stay when things get difficult, into whether you send the message, take the risk, start the thing. The people you look at and think something is different about them. This is almost always what's different, not talent, not luck, not a personality type you were or weren't born with. A private record of kept promises that built a nervous system that trusts its own word. You are not missing confidence. You are missing evidence. Evidence that you are someone whose inner word means something. And the extraordinary thing, the thing that is almost unfair once you understand it, is that you can begin building that evidence today. Not with a grand gesture, not with a transformation. With one small thing you tell yourself you'll do, and then doing it again tomorrow. That's the whole code. Not a feeling, not a trait, a practice. A private, unglamorous, deeply powerful practice that changes the prediction your brain makes every single time your name comes up, even when the only one in the room is you. If this explains something you felt but never had words for, subscribe.